Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm Richke Styles. So in today's tutorial I'll be giving you all a detailed process on how to cut and sew this notch collar crop bust shirt you see right here on your screen. So it's actually a very detailed tutorial, and if this sounds like something you're really interested in learning how to do, please continue watching. And without much ado, I'm just going to get started with what we have for today. So in the making of this particular shirt, I used this lemon colored plain crepe fabric, and it's about 1.5 yards. That was all I used in the making of this shirt. So I'm going to start folding my fabric into two to start my drafting. So before I fold, I need to divide my bust circumference by 4 and add extra 8 inches to that. So when I do all of this, I'll be having around 18 inches. So when I got my desired inches, I'm going to go ahead now to fold my fabric into two and measure out everything I have. If it's up to my desired inches, I'll start drafting. So when I measured, it wasn't up to that, so I had to add extra inches. And by the time I measured for the second time, what I had on fold was the exact inches I wanted, and I went ahead now to pin the sides. Now from the top part of my fabric, I'll roll this line across right here, which is going to be my starting line and also my shoulder line. So now from the folded edge of my fabric, I just started marking 5 inches. So I'm just going to mark this 5 inches point and now use my ruler to connect all these points into a straight line. So after that, I'll start imputing my other measurements, and note that all the measurements I'll be imputing right here will be starting from this 5 inches line which I have. So I place 7.5 inches from that line to get my shoulder divided by 2. So from that point on my shoulder, I came down by 1 inch, and I'm going to slant this into my shoulder line, which is the first line at the top part of my fabric. So having achieved that now, from that my shoulder, I'm just going to come down by 7 inches. So this is for my armhole length. So I want you all to know that because this is a shirt, so the front armhole is going to be 7 inches long. So I marked this 7 inches now, and I connected these 2 points together. So on that line now, I'm going to divide my bust circumference by 4. After dividing this my armhole into 2 to get the midpoint, I'll divide my bust circumference by 4, and whatever I have, I'll mark it on that line. So please, all these measurements I'm taking from the sides, or my vertical measurements, are actually from this 5 inches line, okay? So now I went ahead to use my curve rule to connect from my shoulder all the way down to my chest line. So I believe we all know how to create an armhole, right? So having done this now, I'm going to create my neck line. So my neck width is 3 inches and my neck depth I marked 2.5 inches. So please, for my 3 inches neck width, I started marking it from that 5 inches line, okay? That line right there, alright? So when I now connected it, I now extended it to the ends of my fabric using a straight ruler. So now I'm going to be subtracting 1.5 inches from all my vertical measurements I've been putting right here by placing that 1.5 inches on that first line, which is my shoulder line. So because this is a crop bust shirt, I'm going to add extra 1 inch to my half length. So right there I marked 17 inches and extra 1 inch for hemming allowance. So I didn't maintain my normal half length of 16 inches. Instead I added extra 1 inch to that, okay? So having gotten all of that now, I went ahead to mark 1.5 inches, which is going to be my stitching allowance. So I measure what I have right there from my chest line to that line I have right there is 11 inches. So I subtracted 1 inch from there, and what I got there was 10 inches. I now marked it on my waistline. So I went ahead to connect the point on my chest line down to the point on my waistline. So after that now, I am simply going to come out by 1 inch from that line which I already marked. So I'm marking this 1 inch towards the part facing me, okay, towards the folded part of my fabric, the part facing me. I'm just marking 1 inch away from that line. So having done this now, I'll go ahead now to cut this out. So that 1 inch I actually cut out is for my sorry, I actually marked now is for my button allowance, but just keep watching, you really understand everything I'm doing right here. So on that 1 inch I marked using my yellow chalk, I went ahead now to notch it because that part is my button allowance. So I went ahead to hold all of that part using my office pin. So I went ahead to get the remnant of my fabric to draft out the back part of my shirt. So I went ahead to make sure that I place my front shirt at the back part of this my fabric. So I ensure that that line, that 5 inches line, is placed exactly from the beginning of the folded edge of this my other fabric. Okay, so I moved it and make sure that that line is just started from that fold. So after doing that, now I cut off the sides, and now for the top part I'm going to fold in. So I'll fold in and make sure I get about 1.5 inches, which was the 1.5 inches we cut off from the front part of our shirt while drafting, if you can remember vividly. So I went ahead to measure this out. Now I had 1.5 inches, so make sure you have 1.5 inches. Now from exactly that neck width, I made a notch on this second fabric, and exactly on that fold at that other side I also made a notch right there. I cut off my armhole and removed these pins. So now I'm going to create my neckline for my back shirt. So I connected this way at that point, and I'm going ahead now to now cut out. So I hope you understand everything I'm doing right here, right? So this is actually how simple and easy it is to draft out your shirt. Okay, so now I'm done drafting out the front and the back part of our shirt. I'll go ahead and separate the front piece of our shirt because it's meant to be two, only to be held together by a button. All right, so now this is what I have, and I'm just simply going to start joining at this point. So I trimmed off that neckline at my back a little bit so that it will be seated properly on my neckline. Okay, so now I'm going to place these fabrics right sides facing each other, and on the shoulder I'm just simply going to join them. Okay, so on the right side facing each other, that is how I'm facing this. I know that this is a bit contrasting because of the color. This green is really bright, very very bright. So please, I hope you've seen everything I'm doing right here. Okay, so after placing this on the two shoulders, I'll go ahead now to join on both shoulders. Okay, using just half of an inch. So when I did this, this is what I have. So by the time you join, you will realize that the back part of your shirt will come slightly in front. Okay, so now I flip this to the wrong side so that I can join the sides of my shirt. So before I go ahead to do this, I make sure I arrange it at the sides and make sure that the armhole aligns properly. So I'm just joining the sides now using 3/4 of an inch. Remember the stitching allowance I gave this was 1.5 inches, but I'm joining with 3/4 of an inch. So after you mark your half inch, just count the two lines, that is quarter plus your half inch is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so that was what I tried explaining. So after joining the sides, guys, this is what I have. So you can see what I mean by the back shirt to it'll slightly come in front of your shirt. So after that, now I went ahead to bring this my piece together, or this my shirt together. So I'm now going to pin that first notch which I have, which is my button allowance notch. So from that first notch, I'll simply mark 1.5 inches, and I'm going to make a second notch now. So just take note that the notches I have on my neckline now is 2 on fold. Okay, so the first one, I have the first notch and the second notch. So after that, now I'm simply going to make sure that I pin my neckline to align so that I can start measuring to draft out our collar. So now from this second notch, I'm just going to measure what I have up to the center back of my shirt, and right there I had 7 3/4. Okay, so now I have this my fabric right here with me, which I'm going to use to cut out for my collar. So I folded this into two this way, and I went ahead now to measure out to ensure that it was up to 7 1/4. But before I did that, I went ahead now to cut off these excesses that I don't need. So I measured this out and I folded from the top part again. But if you do this, it's going to be two pieces, so I want to cut this out together So I need to fold first from the top part before I fold from the sides, in order to have this my collar as one piece together. Okay, so I folded from the top part and I folded from the side inward. So I went ahead now to pin this, after which when I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead now to measure out 7¾ inches, which is the length of my collar. Okay, so I made a point right there and I used my ruler to extend that point to a straight line. So from that point now, I'll add extra half of an inch, which is for my joining allowance. I'll also use my ruler to make that visible. Now from that folded edge, I'm going to mark 3 inches. Okay, and from this other side, I'm going to just mark 2.5 inches. So I'm going to connect these two together, and while doing this, it will be a bit slanty or slanted. Okay, so after this, I'll cut out exactly on these lines. So I'm cutting exactly on these lines because I included both my stitching allowance to this. Okay, so after doing that, now I spread this out to see what I have. So if you have an interfacing, you can iron it at the wrong side of your collar, and when you are done ironing, just go ahead and now fold your collar into two this way, and now join both sides using half of an inch. But while you are stitching, please ensure that you don't stitch to the very end. You can come up by half of an inch upward there, so that everything is not entirely closed. So this is what I did right here, and you can see the open I just left about half an inch space, and I ironed my interfacing to this. I actually use a hairstay to be precise. So that is simply it. I cut off the rough edges right here, and I have a very neat collar. So the next, I'll start by fixing it to the neckline of my shirt. So now I brought my shirt again, because I'm yet to notch the neckline for the back, like the center back. Okay, so I was just trying to let you all know that we have two notches right here. So by the time I fix my collar, I'll have to drag this backward this way. But before I do that, I just have to notch the center back neckline. So I folded this way, and I'll go ahead and notch the center back neckline. And here, this is what I have. I'll also get my collar and I'll fold it into two, and I'll also notch the center or the middle of this my collar. So having notched this now, I'm going to get one part of the notch and place it on the right side of my neckline. So this part now is the right side of my fabric. That is where I'm pinning the right side of my collar to. And if you watch properly, you see that it's only the one part of my collar that is pinned to my neckline. So by the time I pin and get to that notch, you see that my collar stopped on that notch. I will now fold this in backward this way from that first notch I have on my neckline. Okay, so you have to pin your collar and make sure that it stops exactly on that second notch right there, you see. Then you now start folding it backward. This piece right here, you now raise it up and fold it backward from that first notch. So make sure you fold backward from the first notch, just the way I'm doing right here. I believe you can see everything and understand what I'm doing. If you don't understand it for this part, just chill. I'll also repeat the same process for the other side of my collar. Okay, and you will see what I've done so far. So please make sure you're pinning only one part of your collar to your neckline, just the same way I showed you right here. So that is the essence of leaving that half of an inch while you are joining your collar at the sides, so that you can just pin one part and now use one part of your collar to cover up your rough edges on your neckline. So I also pinned this collar to get up to that second notch I made on my neckline, as you can see right here. So you see, I raised one part of this collar up this way, and I'm going ahead now to pin this part to my neckline. So when I did that, I'm going to start folding this back. You see, I folded this back now from that first notch, and I placed it on top of this collar, making sure that the other collar on top is not pinned. So I'm going to just separate it from this one. Okay, so after pinning this now, you're just going to stitch using just half of an inch. Make sure you do this and arrange this properly so that you don't have folds at the end of the day. So you're just going to stitch this all the way to the other side or the other end. Okay, so by the time you do this, now you flip this to the right side. See what I have? So I'm going to flip this now to the right side, so you can see how neat and beautiful this is looking already. So as you're stitching, please don't also forget to iron your fabric. Okay, so bring out or you poke out the other side using your scissors or any sharp or pointy objects you have. So I now flip this to the right side, and this is what I have. So I'm simply going to use this my remnant of color to cover up these rough stitches or rough edges right here. But before I do that, on that point there, I just had to notch this a little bit so that I can easily fold in this rough part on my neckline, so that I can use this other part of my collar to cover it up, because if you don't notch, it can't really go well. Okay, so by the time I do that, I'll go ahead now and fold in just half of an inch. So if you're finding it a bit difficult to fold in, just go ahead and iron this as you're folding this way, and use your hemming gum to hem this before you now use your stitch to stitch on top of it. Okay, so by the time you do this, you now arrange your shirts properly, and it's going to automatically fall out this way. Like by the time you iron, you see that it will just form this shape on its own. So I went ahead now to do this. I just ironed this properly, and you can see how neat and aligned is already looking. So now the next thing is to fix my button to this, and also I went ahead to cut out my sleeve. So I'm just going to fix 2 buttons to this shirt and also fold the base of my shirt, and here is my sleeve. So I've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Do have a nice time ahead of you all. Bye.